only a pound and change heavier than a Specialized Epic Evo Pro, but has nearly an inch more travel. Here at QuarterHP, we talk about how capable a mountain bike is a lot. You and I want a bike that's not going to hold you back on your favorite trail. And you want a bike that inspires confidence when your buddy says,
"There's a new trail over there, but it's not that bad. Just go trail speed, except for the second jump after the rock with the moss. You want to go deep, but on the first one, you want to brake check and go short. Oh, and watch out for that one really bad route. It's just after the other bad routes, before the good routes." Jeremy, no! He's got a puncture! He's losing air!
Cross country became down country. Trail bikes are strong enough that you can throw anything you want at them. And enduro sleds, well, they're becoming more and more like their DH big brothers. Now, I took some heat for saying that the 140mm front travel bike was my least favorite category. 120mm XC bikes are efficient, flickable, and loads of fun on rolling terrain, and hilarious when things get gnarly. They're gonna get you anywhere you wanna go and fast. 150mm bikes are efficient enough to get you to the top of the hill without any trouble, but with the components that make you feel like you can ride anything on your way down. The problem is the Goldie Sobs bike in between. The unlovable middle child that does neither well. So what's the problem with that middle child? Well, the problem with the 140mm bike is that it's usually overbuilt. It welcomes heavier, grippier, and better descending parts, but can quickly become as heavy as the 160mm bike, all while never truly being as capable. You get a bike that is neither a scalpel nor a hunting knife.
That's a knife.
But rather a blunt instrument on the climbs that still lacks stability on the descents. What you get is a broomstick. Wingardium Leviosa, baby! Whoa there. But it seems like Allied might have had similar feelings. So rather than make a 140mm bike that climbs poorly compared to a 120mm bike and descends poorly compared to a 150mm bike, they decided to make a bike that pedals like a cross-country bike and descends far better. Now all of a sudden, that broomstick is looking pretty deadly. Now you have a bike that you can keep up with your lycra-clad XC friends on the way up and then totally drop them on the way down.
Here at QuarterHP, we like to be very transparent with how we're funded, which leads me nicely on to welcoming our new partner, Industry 9, for all our wheels. They, as a company, also want to be as transparent as possible and came to us with a really interesting idea. They want us to tell you every time we break any of their products, which is a really interesting opportunity for us. So in every bike review, should we break a wheel or snap an axle, we'll be talking about it in that week's podcast. I don't expect to break any, but if we do, you'll be the first to know. We're incredibly grateful for their support, and it's cool to be running some North American-made products. Now, we don't take any money from frame manufacturers ever, but we are directly funded by our partners. So a special thanks to everyone that supports us.
And without further ado, enter the Allied Fitz. 140mm travel, front and rear, and the angles of an enduro bike. Looks pretty good, huh? So where's the shit? What about the long insertion depth on this size large, where even I can run a 210mm dropper post with my short chicken legs? Nope, not a smudge of fudge here. What about the clean lines and magnetic storage box? Nope, no poop in there. What about a suspension package that focuses on lightweight dampers and chiseled looks? Nope, not a whiff. Allied, first and foremost, is an endurance brand. They started with road and gravel before releasing their first pure cross-country race bike, and now its trail bike companion, this Fitz. By that evolution, it's clear to see what mountain biking is to them. It weighs only 27.5 pounds, only a pound and change heavier than a Specialized Epic Evo Pro, but has nearly an inch more travel. That doesn't sound very shit to me. So how does it ride? Well, you be the judge. So is this just an efficient XC bike, or is it also a capable hard-charging trail bike? Well, I think we should find out. Just as you'd expect, this bike is built to pedal. It feels light and responsive when you get on the gas. I have it set up in a moderately aggressive position, low bars, although they could go lower, and light trail Forecaster tires, as that feels it's the spirit of the bike. If I hadn't been told the travel before riding it, I would have assumed it has less than it does. The extra squish never presents itself while pedaling, and it's a pleasure to climb. You'd assume that Allied had spent all its chips on lightweight climbing efficiency, and that when you point this thing back down the hill, that blunt broomstick would present itself. I did too. But nope, for all that weight Allied shaved off this bike, they did so while recognizing that there's one thing that doesn't really cost a gram: geometry. The 64.5 degree head angle and 442mm chainstay shift this rig back a few notches toward a capable descender and put you in a comfortable position to send it. Pair that geo with the Fox 36 SL, which gives you plenty of front wheel stiffness, and in turn, more front wheel confidence. And all of a sudden, there isn't all that much terrain that this bike isn't able to conquer. But take all this with a grain of salt. This is still no enduro sled. The geometry does its best to calm what would otherwise be a light and twitchy bike, but you still have to play it smart when rolling into certain sections. The rear end can be a bit flexy, with Allied's choice to omit a seat stay bridge, and lightweight trail tires will always have their limits. You could of course beef up the tires, wheels, and suspension and shift this bike back toward being a better descender, but I think if those are your inclinations, this bike might not be for you. But let's see how it fares on our test track. So maybe the Fitz isn't my #1 choice for sending it down our test track. However, it does take the top spot in the ultralight trail bike category so far, and not all that far off of the Stumpy, albeit with better conditions. But does it live up to the task of being a bike that inspires at the top of the trail? For me, this bike lands in a place on the trail bike spectrum that makes me smile unlike many bikes I've ridden so far. There's something so rewarding about a bike that can pedal up a hill fast. Like really fast. Maybe inspiration to shred doesn't have to come at the top of the trail, but rather the moment you leave your door. Bonus points if it can turn around and come back down the hill fast too. The Allied Fitz seems to do both pretty well. If you liked this video, like this video. Maybe even consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.